Okay, hey kids, it's story time again with Kurt Thompson, Music History 101, and we're learning some fun and interesting behind-the-scenes facts of some of these notable composers in music history. We are up now to the mid to late 1500s, and finally we've gone to a country of composers where I could probably pronounce most of the names much better than the last couple. We're actually at England with William Byrd. Born in 1543, died in 1623, and you know what? Not bad for back then. He lived almost 80 years, which was really be like us living to be like 120 right now. He was an Elizabethan. Why do they have to have this crappy, funky, complicated words? He was an Elizabethan, and as such, not only had difficulty with spelling, but also had a tendency to put capitals in the oddest of places. Let's see what they say about that. Okay. The capital of England, however, was still London, where Byrd spent a great deal of time. Of Byrd's parents, nothing is known, although it is reasonable to assume that he had the requisite number, one of each. He spent his childhood in Lincolnshire, where it is possible that his father was the original Lincolnshire poacher. Since Byrd was appointed organist to Lincoln Cathedral at age 20, we must assume that he had some previous musical training. Otherwise, he couldn't have had lasted as long as he did, which was about 10 years. Okay, moving on. After that, Byrd went to London and became a gentleman of the Chapel Royal. In addition, he and another composer, his teacher Thomas Tallis, sorry, but we really don't have time to talk more about him. That's the author. He's granted monopoly on music publishing by Queen Elizabeth. This gave them exclusive right to print any music either played or sung in any language whatsoever. Whether this right extended to include music that was striped or polka-dotted, as well as plaid, musicologists can only assume. Not only were Tallis and Byrd the only ones allowed to print music, they were also the only ones allowed to print the ruled paper upon which music is composed. They had, in other words, page turn, words cornered the market. Modern-day composers who are finding it difficult to have their work published would do well to keep this tactic in mind. Elizabeth was fond of music. One biographer of her time said she sings quite exceptionally, both with voice and hand. It must have been sign language. Interesting. Some of the music Byrd wrote was intended to be performed at home by people looking for something to do after dinner. And let's see what he's got a little footnote here. Oh, I'm not going to read that. Okay. In the case of madrigals, each part was printed separately or at a clockwise angles on a single sheet, so that everyone could sit around a table and sing. Interesting. I didn't know that. Since only the very clever host could be counted upon to always invite the right number of voice parts to a dinner party, the music was often designed to be suited to either voices or viols. That way, any number of vocal lines could be played by a string instrument, although it was sometimes difficult to understand the words. If everyone played and no one sang, it became impossible. Madrigal singing had become increasingly popular in England ever since the publication in 1588 of a set of madrigals largely of Italian origin called Musica Transalpina. It takes the time to mention this interesting fact only because no history of English Renaissance music would be complete without it, and it's likely to turn up on the exam. Most of Byrd's music was written to be performed in the context of a church service. So most of it is vocal music. Someone had come up with the devious observation that the more the choir sang, the less the clergy preached. This was considered to have been a good thing for everyone except perhaps the clergy. It says, now I guess this is a quote by Byrd, Byrd felt that singing was good for everyone since it doth open the pipes. He doesn't say which pipes. Interesting. Okay, let's continue on here. Although BYRD is chiefly known for his sacred music, it ought to be remembered that he also wrote entertaining little madrigal Susanna Fair, sometime assaulted was by two old men desiring of her cause. That's weird. Which is about exactly what you think it is. Let's do that. Let me say that again. That's bizarre. Although BYRD is chiefly known for his sacred music, which is obviously done in church, it ought to be remembered that he also wrote the entertaining little madrigal Susanna Fair, sometime assaulted, was by two old men desiring of her cause. So it sounds like Susanna got into a threesome, basically, is what I'm getting from this, and it could have been against her will. So she could have had a train run on her, right, folks? Like a little small caboose run on her. Which is about exactly what you think that it probably is. By the time you've sung the title, it's half over. Even though one of the chief characteristics of a madrigal is its ability to use music to paint a clear picture of the words, this one is not, perhaps luckily, a very good example of that. And there we have it, folks. It looks like William BYRD. They didn't really go into a lot about William BYRD, but there's, I don't know, a little bit of interesting things about him. At least he wasn't a murderer like Gisault. And, okay, so, I don't know about you guys, but just reading about this makes me tired and sleepy. So I'm about ready to take a nap. And you're probably already sleeping, so when you wake up, you'll discover that this video is already over, and you can turn off the lights and go to sleep. Good night, kids.